Um, yes, things are going to change. So, in light of search generative experience and everything that we're all hearing and understanding about what's coming in search, I think it's very important that we all have a pulse on some of what we would have historically considered ancillary skills, right? So we would have considered core SEO skills to be very either content first or development related, right? It was either on page or technical SEO that were the things over which, hey Mark, over which we have control and the things that we're going to focus our attention on, right? So an SEO strategy was largely comprised of, we've got our topic clusters, we've got our website optimized and all of that. The more that we're looking at the trends for SGE, even very early trends, the more it's becoming clear that, things like site structure, things like data, things like markup and schema, and then things like the larger network of content are going to become important. And so what I was, really talking to several different people about today was the idea that historically in SEO, it was like, if you want to get better, go deep, right? Go deep into a topical area, become the absolute authoritative, exhaustive expert on what you do in your industry, write more content, better content than anybody else. And that was how you won. And I really think, in my own opinion, how we're moving in SEO, it's really going to be a lot more about breadth. It's going to be about casting a wider net. And how you do that in search and SEO is backlinks, right? And basically linking structure. So what we're going to talk about for the next 3 weeks is very germane to that reality and all about site links. So there are really two big categories. If you go Google this and you try to study this yourself about site linking, that I want to just kind of quickly get out of the way from a definition perspective, and then we'll kind of dive into the training. So when it comes to site links, okay, all one word, you're really talking about two categories. You're talking about paid and site links as they relate to ad structure in Google Ads. And then you're talking about secondarily about organic. You cannot win site links. It's not like something that you get awarded by Google after doing a specific series of steps, right? It is very much automated by Google. So very similar to SERP and just getting rankings themselves, you can't game the system. However, there are things that you can do and strategies and tactics that you can employ, the first of which we'll talk about today, that improve your chances of getting site links. Okay, so when we go into, that's the big picture. Two big buckets. When you Google it, you're going to see those two big things, organic and paid ads. Site links relate to both. You got to start moving that way. And that's kind of how it's going to be. We're going to organize our conversation largely today around the organic side, but I'll give you some resources that you can use if you want to talk, if you want to like self-educate on the paid side. So does anybody have any big questions before we actually get into things here? Okay. The caravan leaves for gymnastics shortly. So we'll be friendly until then. Okay. All right. So first of all, we're going to basically do this in 3 modules. The first today is really high level understanding site links and their importance. And then we're going to talk about the things that we can affect in order to, improve site links. Okay. So very high level definition, site links themselves, links, capital L, right? Links, both from other websites off page and your own website on page, are important because we know that both how many links you have and how relevant those links are correlate to search traffic. What did I not say? I didn't say that links are a ranking factor. Okay, so as we know, the Google algorithm has very specific and defined ranking factors. You will not find links as such, as we will talk about them today, within those ranking factors, which is an important distinction to me as somebody who is, in charge of SEO and running SEO for teams, is that you understand that this is not about necessarily playing the SEO game as it exists today. This is very much forecasting into what I think is going to be important in the future when SGE becomes more prominent. And that's why I led with that as part of the intro to this conversation. Okay. Literally from Google, from the horse's mouth. Site links are links from the same domain that are clustered together under a web result. Sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. This is what it looks like. Site links have literally been around for like as long as Google has been around. The search engine results page has almost always featured lists of links within the same domain. Okay, so what does that automatically mean? So if we have a website that is all about writing, and then we have a bunch of subpages that are about creative writing, storytelling writing, technical writing, business writing, it stands to reason that that is all semantically related. It's all part of the same root domain. And if Google chooses to use those things as site links, then they would appear like you see them here. So when you see this and you see somebody's web page beautifully oriented in SERP to have the root domain homepage as the top, right? And then these kind of organized columns of sublinks, that is not something you can set up. It's something that Google does once it has determined that a website is incredibly good quality, that a website has a good user experience, that a website has relevant content. Okay. So all of the things that we know to be ranking factors ultimately contribute to whether or not site links become part of your search engine results page structure. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that? Ranking factors versus site links. Okay. I just want to make sure it's like very crystal clear. So basically it will always be structured that way. You'll have the main search result and then you'll have site links underneath. Google literally says this: we only show site links for results when we think they'll be useful to the user. It's called being vague. It's what they do best. If the structure of your site doesn't allow our algorithms to find good site links, or we don't think that site links for your site are relevant for the user's query, we won't show them. Is there anything that you just as a logical human being can infer from that? So what's the clue about what we can control that would or would not enable your site to have site links?
Yeah, I mean, that all goes back to having a massive interlinking strategy. Like if it's not tied and if it's not obvious and it's not related to the query, that's it.
What else, Sanders?
Would it be URL structure and
Yes.
like how deep you go in with that, like making sure it's shallow and easily crawlable?
Exactly. Those are the perfect two answers. Good job, guys. So yes, it absolutely has to do with URL structure, crawlability, how deep you're going into the URL structure, how your schema is organized, right? All of those things. And simply how sticky your site is itself, how well organized and coordinated are the topics, the coverage, the ideas, and even the user journey. Okay. So a beautifully laid out result in search engine results page. Why do we care? Why would we care if our search engine results page looks like this versus just a single entry?
I mean, it's going to make me click around more.
CTR, bingo. Okay. Right here, it's immediately giving the user a single snapshot expanded version. Everything that search generative experience is basically shrinking the amount of decisions the user has to make, right? That's what BARD is going to do. It's going to summarize search engine results so that people almost don't even have to leave the search engine results page, which is travesty, devastating, horrifying, all the things, right? That's apocalyptic. So this becomes then even more important, that as somebody scrolls down, if they're like, screw that AI, I want to actually see what's out there, and starts doing the scroll and investigating the search engine results page themselves, it becomes that much more important that what you serve up there looks good, sounds good, is relevant, feels substantial. Right here, I'm going to assume this is a big company with a big website, right? Just think about all the little perceptions that take place in people's brains when they see this result, as opposed to some weird, lame result that's 3 URL trees down from the root domain with a non-existent or automated meta description, right? So this is pageantry. This is all about pursuing the click-through rate so that the user has a good experience. So there's very much like kind of this reciprocity between like the way you structure your website, the fact that it's easy for users, the way it's organized beautifully to support a simple user click, and earning that by having good site links to begin with. right? So both of those things kind of compound and feed into one another. So those are all good clues, right? Google always does this. They don't tell us anything, but they give us lots of good clues. So Sitelinks best practices, obviously at the moment, Sitelinks are automated, right? So the best practices that Google tells us, and we're going to go into a lot more detail with this in a second, is basically make sure that the text you use as page titles and in your headings is informative, relevant, and compact. So where do we control page titles and headings? What category of content is that? Starts with an M, ends with an eta. Okay, metadata, right? So we control page titles and headings in our metadata. So a lot of people right now are like, it doesn't matter anymore that you structure content for SEO, because structuring content for SEO doesn't matter because Bard can read it anyway, right? We're prioritizing AI over the Google bots. Not so, right? There are still innumerable reasons that you should use best practices for SEO content. So you have to have the right page titles. You have to have informative, relevant, and compact headings. A logical site structure, right? And we'll talk more about this in a second. It's very important that you link important pages from other relevant pages. So the next time you're on a website, go to a main product page. Let's do it right now. What's a website? Let's go to one of our clients. All right. So if we go to a main product page, air purifiers, we want to see that within here, all of these are linked to a sub product. Okay. The bad decision would be to take and put all of your products in a giant hamburger nav, right? You don't want these giant hamburger menus that become very hard to click, that muddy the URL structure, that confuse the user experience. You want a beautifully tiered experience. So all I have to do is say, okay, perfect. I'm going to go, I want an air purifier. Here's the air purifiers that I have. It's very clear from the title what kind of air purifiers they are. And if I click into this, I can see not only the product itself, but I can see other products. I have an external link. I have the ability to go deeper into suggested products. So all of these are links, right, to related products. And then if you look down here, we've got lots of nice copy, okay? Lots of nice copy, and then lots of additional opportunities to navigate further into the site. And I think I even put links in some of these. I'll have to ask Megan, but some of these, okay. So why have a product page that's that long? Because I want to make it sticky. I want to make sure that if somebody goes air purifier, fit the air purifier for me, I give them all the other opportunities to investigate. But what I'm also doing is telling Google, hey, this product is also related to these products, is also related to these topics, is also related to these answers, right? So I'm creating clusters of content and I'm using links strategically to ensure that if somebody goes to my site and sees that, they're going to progress through and go through the steps that I want them to go through. Okay. So that's logic, right? Just use very basic logic, make it as simple as possible. And then ensure that your internal links anchor text is concise and relevant. And that's actually where we're going to end today. So I'll come back to that in a second. And then avoid repetitions in your content. So a huge, we're all guilty of it. A huge, doing the keyword cannibalization, having multiple H1s, multiple pages on your website that are called the exact same thing is fundamentally problematic to this, because how would Google then choose? Google won't do that work. If they see 2 pages, they're just going to downvote your site. They're not going to award you with site links because you have more content on something. They're just going to be like, well, this is either plagiarized or duplicate content, which becomes a downvote in your search engine results page ranking. Okay. Site links are one of the most common search features. So Ahrefs did a study on it. There's 1.8% coverage in SERPs. Nearly every branded term that you can think of has site links. So like, I bet if we Google Coca-Cola, let's see. Doesn't even go to the website. Okay, wait, it does right here. I don't actually see it. Hold on, let's see Pepsi. Here we go. All right, so Pepsi has site links. So if you look, it's got its root domain right here. And then it has all of these site links that it's been awarded and then more results. So why would I even bother scrolling? right? Unless I'm looking for a news story or something like that, unless this content is not actually what I'm looking for, this automatically gives me a faster journey to what I want to see. Okay. Everything about it supports the user experience. So most brands have that. And in fact, nearly 67% of all organic key phrases on, like for Wikipedia, which as we know is one of the most highly organic traffic sites in the universe, have site links with them. Okay. All right. So CTR, huge factor, right? We know that it's a huge factor for organic traffic. We know that it's a huge factor for root domain authority and for average position and for a lot of other SERP related content, or SERP related awards that we want to earn from Google. We also know that obviously ranking is very important. So, you get to the first place, you've got a lot higher chance of having a CTR, right? You can be in the 30% CTRs if you're number one. By the time you get to the second page, you don't even have 5% click-through rate. So it is extremely important, obviously, that you've got the ranking and the click-through rate. Those are both very important factors. There's a huge increase in CTR when you have site links. Okay, so compelling reasons. Before we kind of go through and start our actual like exercises today, there, again, like I said at the top of the call, two big types. You've got organic and you've got paid. When you get into the paid ad side of things, there are like several different types of site links. And you kind of need to go familiarize yourself with all those concepts if you want to think about site links and ads. So as you've noticed, if you go and you Google something and you are served an ad, sponsored content, sometimes that will actually have site links in it. So like the ad itself will show up to the URL that they want it to, that they want you to go to, but you'll see site links that are organized within that are related content and part of. So those are actually built into the PPC campaign in a strategic way. And there are various ways that you can kind of do that. So again, if you think about, click-through rate is obviously important for organic, but it's even more important for PPC because that's like the whole point. So if you're trying to do everything you can to get as many clicks as possible, it might be worth pursuing a project like that gives you some site link placement in ads. All right. So let's go through the points of how to improve your chance of site links. So we'll have two exercises as we walk through this. But basically, I kind of want to like show you real world examples of the things that we can actually control. As you know, often with Google, there are a lot of things we can't control, but when it comes to site links, we can't win them. We can't install them. We can't get a developer to put them on our website. It's something you truly have to be awarded, and you just need to do the right things so that you have the best chance possible of getting site links awarded to you. As we just saw, Coca-Cola, for some reason, does not have site links, right? Huge enterprise level websites often make a lot of stupid mistakes just because they don't need organic traffic or they rely very heavily on paid traffic. But if you've been paying any attention to the fluctuations in paid traffic, then you're going to be really keen to improve your organic game because paid is a garbage fire right now, and who knows if it will recover. All right, so very first is a unique site name. So a huge reason that you would maybe not get site links is if, your name is endoid.com or, Discover or something that's like very close to a branded word that is very popular, and all you'll ever do is be mistyped or something like that. If you have a really weird spelling, all these things are obviously very problematic. So making sure that you have a unique site name with no conflation. Almost none of us have any control over that, nor will we ever. So we'll just move on. Okay. It is what it is. Website structure. So obviously looking at how the URL structure is laid out, how the pagination is, but also thinking about navigation. So you're thinking back end, front end here, right? When you lay out a website, what's the simplest possible way to do it? We're getting a little bit into things like taxonomy, which I'm very passionate about, informational design, thinking about the big categories into the little categories. So what I wanted to do was show you how we actually recently did this. So I'm going to pull up the Internet Archives really quick and show you an old version of a website and then a version of a website we just launched, and kind of show you how we recommended to the client that they change their navigation pretty substantially, simply because the process that they were kind of requiring users to go through was so darn confusing. And it's interesting because since we launched, I don't know why it's taking forever to load. Since we launched it, they've gotten like 10 leads in the past like 3 days. And we can see in HubSpot, like the data of where people are going on the website. And it's so simple. Like they're just going from page to contact, or like page to landing page. Like we've simplified it so much, and we kind of had to fight for it, but and you'll appreciate this. Oh, Mark, where is he? He's not on my front screen right now. Where's Mark? It worked. That's all I have to say.
That's good. That was a struggle for the last
A labor of love.
4 months, 5. I don't know. It's been a long time coming.
Yes. You had hair when we started this project.
Labor of love would probably not be the best way to describe it.
You're like, no, didn't enjoy. Do
Yes,
not
I
recommend.
had a full head of hair at the beginning of it.
Just labor.
Yeah.
Just
No
labor.
love.
Yeah.
Just labor.
It was billable time.
Yeah,
That's the
well
best way to
invoiced
describe
labor. All right. So this was how they had their website and menu set up before. This is a sales training company. Okay. So this is how the website was set up. This was the homepage. And what we offer was all programs inside sales with all these subcategories. These are all individual pages. Field sales, so big category, and then a bunch of little categories. Especially with branded terms, no less. So, confusing. Oh, and a pop-up. Here's a good question. How do I okay, I got rid of it. I don't know how I just clicked randomly and got rid of it. Virtual intelligence. So sales management. So then we've got a bunch of kind of the similar sounding category. Okay. Point being, we looked at that and we're like, no, like this isn't, nobody knows what this is. Nobody knows what these terms mean. They're not in order. Anyway, so as you can see, it was a huge, point of recommendation. This is their brand new site that Shaylee just finished last week. Very proud of her. She did a fantastic job, and Mark did a beautiful job writing it. It is probably one of the best written websites you'll ever see. And this is how we had them change it. So they sell to two people. They sell sales training and management training. Those are the two categories. So we basically said, then just put those as the two big categories, right? And that may be the furthest anyone needs to go. If you'll notice, we also, created some coloration. So it's very obvious on hover where you're at. And then we created a visual here. So on hover, it becomes very clear. But what we did is we simplified the terms. So for instance, this company has a proprietary sales training called Other-Centered Selling. But here you had to kind of go through, okay, inside sales, field, and then other-centered selling. So instead of all that noise, we just basically said selling, business development, account management. Like we just use human terms, like things that everybody understands instead of the proprietary terms. Okay. So in doing that, basically what we did is simplify, and this is obviously still in QA, but simplify the URL structure of everything. So that when you come here, you're not going, even in the selling tab, you're not going into a secondary URL. We made it a first tier URL because it's like the most important branded term they have. Okay. And even when you go into some of their subcategories of things, strategic account management, sales management is called Catalyst. So we did all of these as first tier URLs on purpose so that we didn't get caught into this crazy train of, I don't even remember what the URLs were for these. It's going to take forever because it's pulling it from the archive, but we were getting into 2-tier, 3-tier, 4-tier URL structures. And we were like, Google's not going to crawl 4 tiers of a URL. And it's very important that we're speaking in plain speak. Okay. So you can see how there's a front end play of like, how can a user actually get to what they're looking for fast in terms that they understand? And there's the back end play of how are we going to structure this so that these pages have the best chance of ranking in Google so that we're not going through, multiple. So like, yeah, so this was called Other-Centered Selling Biz Dev Reps, things like that. Okay. So we just basically took everything in their ecosystem and shrunk it down, made it very simple so that the user simply, when they go in and, oh, there's 3 tiers. Sorry. I think the Zoom was blocking that. So basically these are the 3 things they sell. These are the 3 options people have. And if people want to go further, they can. But if you notice, this basically looks like Sitelinks, right? We took the biggest possible category And then the second biggest possible categories, 3, made them narrow it down to 3. And then there are subcategories under there. So if somebody really knows what they're looking for, sure, they can click straight through to it. But if they want to investigate, it's very clear where they're supposed to go, and their ability to self-identify that should be pretty simple based on what we know of the business and all that. So that's just an example of how you can kind of take a complex and way overkill kind of process with URL site structure and swap it to be as simple as possible. Almost nobody ever wants to do that, but I would say, like, die on that hill. Like, that's a hill worth dying on as a marketer, because if you don't fix that and your navigation is extremely complicated and branded and billions of subtopics and all of that, you just lose people. They don't have the patience for it. And you'll never earn sitelinks because Google doesn't have the patience for it either, right? This is too many steps, right?
Do you have the ability to see if, which you probably, I'm assuming you do not, but do you have the ability to see if Aslan had sitelinks prior to us launching the new website?
We didn't have any.
We didn't have any. Do they have it now?
Probably not yet, because it's only been a week. So I don't think the whole site has probably indexed.
Gotcha.
Yeah. In a month, we'll know probably. It'll be interesting to see.
But the fact that they've already seen that big of a spike in leads and being able to track where their users are going is impressive. So
very impressive. You killed it. Just put it that way. Good job, buddy. Okay, so I just wanted to show you kind of like old nav versus new nav, like a real world example of like how do you take and simplify so that you can kind of increase your chances of showing up better in SERP and all that. Structured data, we obviously did a very excruciating hour on structured data markup, so I'm not going to go back there because I think we all have a little light PTSD over that. Very technical. I'll send you if you weren't there, I'll send you the recording, but I don't recommend it unless you really want to. Or you could just message Megan B. She'll talk you through it. But point being, structured data is obviously very important. Go to schema.org, see if, the client or your site has its schema uploaded so that you're basically prescribing to Google a little bit more proactively how to crawl the site, all that kind of thing, and very clear navigation. So that's why we kind of went through that step. Okay. Next, what we're going to do is kind of test. So one of the things that, when we're doing analysis, when we're doing competitor analysis, when we're trying to figure out clues for, how simple does my site structure have to be? Part of that is simply instinct of understanding how people navigate certain kinds of websites, right? There's obviously this huge psychographic component to it of understanding like what are people looking for? This is why we always start with audience first before we do anything in the world. What are people looking for? How much patience do they have? i.e., how old are they? How are they going to get to the point of how well do they understand what they're looking for versus like us having to educate them on what they need, right? So is it problem oriented or is it solution oriented? All the things, right, that go into kind of creating content SEO strategies. So I thought that a really good place to do this would be to hunt in a website that has multiple dimensions of data and has a pretty complex taxonomy. So one of my favorite places in the world is thriftbooks.com. I think I have a package in my kitchen at the moment. We buy thriftbooks.com like every week. And basically it's exactly what it sounds like. It's thrift books. Okay. So it's used secondhand books and they're very cheap and it's awesome. So on the website, there are tons of categories. And what I want us to do now, and I'm going to drop this doc to all of you guys, is I want you to go in and I want you to try to find the titles that I have in this list without using the search bar. So what this will do is it will require you to think categories versus authors versus, okay. And you'll immediately see when you pull up the site kind of how it's laid out. And it is navigable. It is not easy. And I would never do it without the search bar. So good luck. Okay. So you can basically go in and you can look through all the different categories of content. Okay. Or you can look at, if I'm giving you something that's a little bit more, I think everything I gave you is a book. So you can kind of try to find everything that way. Okay. So I'm going to drop this to you. I'm going to give you like a couple minutes and I want you to just don't just hunt and think about it. Like, think about the steps you're having to go through. Think about the clicks you're having to make and just like take 3 minutes and enter the excruciation and like live in it and kind of think about what it means as a user of a website. I don't think excruciation is a word. We're going to make it a word. You're not allowed to use the search bar, Caitlin. You're highlighting.
Yeah, I'm highlighting it so I can put it in my doc so I can take a look at this later.
I tried to pick books that are that the genre is very obvious. And I also gave you like clues. So sometimes I gave you author clues. Who did that? Mark. All right, I'll stop talking and let you do this for a second.
I already dislike it because I've had to click too many times. I've clicked too many times.
I simply chose the easiest one on that list.
I was like, did you cheat? No.
I can't even find Peter Rabbit.
They have a subcategory in the children's books. If you go to what it was, it's a very animals, and then on the bottom left or on the left hand column, you can go to the bottom and it says rabbits, and you can click on that, and it'll bring you up any rabbit book.
Yes, I love it. I think the taxonomy of this site is actually very well done.
So much clicking.
Joy, would you say that their website is, if you exclude the search bar, is primarily designed for people that don't know what they're looking for? That just looking at it with all of the different drop downs and options in that top header, if I don't know what book I'm looking for, maybe I want to read something that is European biography or memoir, right? Probably not, but
I think they've made some fascinating choices to support discovery.
That's a very
which I don't think a lot of websites do.
That's a very nice way to say that it's complicated.
It's complicated. But books are complicated.
That's fair.
Because there exist so many different, there exist multiple taxonomies, right? You could, we'll talk in a second. To be clear, I did vet that all these books are actually in here.
But here's the thing.
Is this all we found, guys?
Well, okay, so I looked for Peter Rabbit first, and then I looked for Barack Obama because I was like, oh, I can find him. Somebody already done it. So now I'm back to square one, finding a new one.
All right, let's do it together. Ready? All right, so Hunger Games. All right, so probably we're going to go to books. We're going to go to, is it a children's book?
I've been trying to find this since we started. I can't find it.
Okay, let's do
probably under classics.
So let's go age. I bet it's 9. Is it middle grade fiction or young adult? That's what we're gonna find.
Yeah, I did young adult.
Okay, if you've not read,
nope, it's middle grade. Right here.
Okay.
Here it is. So it's middle grade fiction. Okay. Think again, Adam Grant. All right, so we're gonna go books. We're gonna go. It's not a biography or a memoir. I can't see all the categories. Maybe education? Social sciences? Or does he consider himself psychology? I bet he does. I bet he considers himself psychology. Let's try psychology. Yeah, predictably irrational. These are, we're on the right thread here. All right, then let's see, sort by, how new is Think Again? Let's see, it's a bestseller maybe. All right, let's look for it. What did we miss? So it was in the same group. We just didn't see it. So related subjects, business. Okay. So the point of this exercise wasn't just to torture you. The point of this exercise is to think about the structure, to think about the search. So books are a good way to practice this because they're multidimensional. You can search by author, you can search by title, you can search by type, you can search by like actual literature, like category in like a retail environment, right? So if you think like walking into a Barnes and Noble, like the categories that it's laid out in are maybe different than the categories that are here. So that multidimensionality is important because we often bring our own assumptions into how websites should be structured because we think we've done enough audience research and we think about how we search. But Mark immediately had a path that he followed, right? And it was probably different than the path that Caitlin followed. And it's probably different than the path I would have tried to follow because we bring different amounts of knowledge into this, right? So because I'm writing a middle grade fiction book in my spare time, I know a lot about middle grade fiction and I know that that category exists, right? Like there may be people here who you're like, I didn't even know middle grade was a category, but I've studied it because I want to know what category my book would fit into, right? That kind of thing. So there's a lot to consider. And a website cannot just support one kind of searcher because there are multiple kinds of searchers, right? So when you think, if you were to make a business website comparable to this website, okay, like let's take accounting firms, for example, because there's a lot of accounting people in our world. So all the people who work at an accounting firm, that like they themselves would be a search criteria. So it may be that somebody met somebody at a networking event and they want to find this specific guy who works at this accounting firm in this vertical. They may be looking by industry. They're like, I want to find an accounting firm that specifically works with a marketing agency, right? That has that specialization. They may be looking for a specific service, meaning I need to find an accounting firm that can do an audit for me or that can do my taxes or whatever, right? Like there are multiple dimensions to this. And so the problem of accommodating that is it tends to introduce unnecessary complexity. And you think, well, if there's all these ways, we have to then create all of these pathways. And our challenge as people who are trying to create websites that are healthy for SEO and that are eligible for Sitelinks is to maintain simplicity. All right. Which is why so many websites are going to this search bar function. And it's just kind of, what do you want? What can I help you with? Right? Like, and literally their homepage is a search bar, which is the next version of the Hire a Writer website, by the way. It's just creating that, trying to figure out how to best serve the innumerable possibilities of how people navigate a website. But what a search bar doesn't solve for is how your website is actually structured, right? And whether or not the like fundamental structure of your website will support search engine results placement and site links, which are very important, like we've noticed for click-through rate. Did anybody find anything I didn't know about? Oh, who found Dickens? Good job, Caitlin. Good job.
I didn't know he went by another name, Charles Augustus Scott.
Yep.
So I kept seeing the title of the book and I'm like, well, that's not it. So just learn
still. And you found
yeah, I found that one too. Yeah.
Okay, good grief.
Historical romance. Wowee.
Yeah. Ooh la la. British.
Mhm.
Steamy. Okay, so good job, guys. So here's some examples. I'll send you this after the call, but basically thinking about what's the most likely way. And one of the best ways to test search processes is to do something yourself, right? Or to go on Amazon, because Amazon taxonomy is obviously very robust and very specific, and there's visible link trees. So you can see where you've come from and the process that you made and what category you ended up in. And it just kind of helps you start to memorize some of those things. Okay. But we should also really become increasingly familiar with the various types of searchers that there are and the various ways people are both entering and navigating through, our website. Endlessly, I feel like we do site audits and people are like shocked at like, hey, 60% of your organic traffic comes in through this blog that you wrote 6 years ago, right? And they're like, we didn't even know we had that blog. It's like, well, we should do something about that blog if that's where you're getting a lot of leads, or you're getting a lot of incoming traffic. So all the things. Okay. Other things, branding. So obviously, we talked about how like if you have a very confusing name, that's going to be a problem for site links because Google's just simply not going to understand what your website is about if you don't have a lot of good supporting content for, a lot of people think that, okay, with the influx of AI content, I'm not going to be able to inform anyone about anything anymore because all the answers will already exist. So what I'm going to mostly talk about then is my brand. I'm going to talk about our brand story. I'm going to talk about our brand distinctives. I'm going to talk about what's proprietary to us. That's a huge mistake because nobody knows your brand except relatively speaking, right? We know what Coca-Cola is and how much Coca-Cola could cost because we know what Pepsi is and how much a Pepsi should cost, right? Like everything we do as consumers is completely based on relativity, right? We don't know how much a TV is supposed to cost unless we see 3 TVs. So the idea that a brand can exist in like a vacuum where with all of its own little ideas and all of its own little nuances is misguided. And I think will be very problematic for SEO. Your sitemap should be in Google. You should care about your metadata. Obviously, if you have all these cannibalized page titles and H1s and things, you're going to be in trouble. And then the last thing is internal linking. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about internal linking. So what internal linking is not is the same hype. It can be, it shouldn't be. What internal linking shouldn't be is I'm going to have the word, okay, I sell a product called I Adapt Air. Airoasis.com. We sell a product called I Adapt Air. Over the words I Adapt Air, I'm going to link to my product page every single time I use the words I Adapt Air. And that is the hyperlink I'm going to use. And that's the anchor link text I'm going to use. Okay. So anchor link text is the text that's actually the hyperlink is over. That would be a very flawed approach and it would be really problematic and Google would see it as gaming the system and it would be a bad idea. Okay. So you cannot hyperlink over the same exact words with the same exact link every single time. There are a variety of link types and you should have some representation of these. There is a very robust strategy that you need to employ. To give you an example of that, I'm going to show you, and then we're going to hunt for them in the minutes we have left. I'm going to show you an example of a linking project that Lindsay just did for us. So this is actually for Airoasis. We have a huge foothold, maybe even stronghold in black mold. That's a key phrase. So like if you Google like health effects of black mold, we will probably pop up. We've worked very hard on it. We've written a lot about black mold. So what we basically found out was that not only was black mold and black mold related content for this website driving a lot of organic traffic, which we already knew, we ended up doing a research project where we were polling existing customers and found out that those who had entered through black mold pages and those who had black mold related health conditions or concerns were the absolute highest value client. They bought the most. They spent the most money on the website, like by a pretty significant margin. So once we had that data and realized like, holy crap, this isn't just driving a lot of traffic. This is actually like a money opportunity. Like this is a revenue opportunity for us. We realized that we needed to beef up our SEO game for black mold. So what we decided to do, in addition to, planning some mold related content, things that we found in like a competitor gap analysis were missing, things like that, we decided to go through and assess our linking. Okay. And figure out, do we have a strong enough linking strategy present for this topic? Because it is so important. So basically what I had her do was go through and figure out every page that we had on the website. And these are all of them that you see here in the left ones. All the pages that we had on our website that were ranking for mold related key phrases. And then what she did was she extrapolated from those pages the mold links. So figured out on those pages, what are the internal links that we are using in order to, boost the SEO signal, rank for sitemaps or Sitelinks, things like that. Okay. And then what I had her do was basically go in and say, okay, we need to have this level of saturation. And we kind of prioritized based on the pages that we knew were winning the most business, that we needed to have a higher prevalence, right? We needed to link those pages more because those pages clearly had high conversion potential. And then go in and figure out where we were missing opportunities to add more internal links. So she did that research and then figured out, okay, here's all the internal links that we need to be adding to all of these pages and went through and listed those out. Okay. And then we just did it. Then we had the client approve it and we did it. So we went through and she went through and linked all of these in variety of anchor link text strategies so that there was, some, well, we'll look at that in a second. There was a variance there, and did that. So that would be a very good, very simple way to say, like, okay, if I know that accounting services near me is a moneymaker, or if I know that, construction accounting is a moneymaker, if I know, like, when you do the business development work and you work with the biz dev team to figure out, okay, what pages on our website have the highest conversion potential, that would be a very good entry point into a linking project to figure out what then, like, go through and triage and say, okay, this is every page on our website that's ranking for those kinds of topics. Here's all the internal links that are currently present. And then we go through and do the research and figure out kind of what's missing. Like, what could we add to these pages to strengthen the SEO signal so that we're going wider and wider with that web of interlinking on the website. So I just thought that was a good, like, simple example of, like, how do you actually, categorize something like this? This is obviously a very high traffic website. It's e-commerce. They get, tens of thousands of hits, all the time, thousands and thousands of hits a day. So we're dealing with a large scale content, large scale coverage. But this is a really good way to kind of break it down into a bite-sized piece and do one topic at a time. Yeah, what's up, Kayla?
I'm curious if there is a threshold. Like, I'm thinking about Modus in particular, right? So form and place is our highest converting, topic cluster. It's where the predominant amount of traffic is coming from. And is it still worth doing something like this to this scale for something that is already performing so well? Or would you prioritize something that's maybe not as highly converting, but the potential is there for it?
I think you need to do the audit.
Yeah.
So what I would do is pull every page on the website that is ranking, and you can do it in SEMrush, that's ranking for any topic related to that, because it might not even always be the topical pages.
Right.
Like,
okay.
there will be other pages that are supporting it, and then go through and triage those pages and figure out, okay, what hyperlinks are actually on those pages. If you're talking about threshold in terms of, like, oversaturation, like overlinking, I mean, I always say, like, I think you can get away with at least probably 6 to 10 internal links on, like, 1,000,
Yeah,
1,500 word page. I probably wouldn't go over that just because it's weird and feels a
Your
little
page gets
spammy.
really lit up, and it's
Yeah, and it's just
never
like, it's
pretty
like
to look
hyperlink
at.
o'clock.
Yeah.
But then if you also feel like, okay, well, this page is our highest converter, then go tack on 1,000 words in the form of collapsible accordion FAQs, and then hook those suckers up with interlinks, right? Like,
Yeah.
there are ways to add words without adding too much real estate, so it doesn't feel so tacky.
Okay. Yeah, we do that FAQ on a lot of pages.
Yeah.
Most of our manufacturing pages are built that way. Stacy.
We all do.
Willis.
Okay, so last hunt. So let's do one more activity just to kind of get our thoughts together. So I want to make sure we end with some really actionable ideas. So that linking project is very actionable. You can already be thinking about clients we have or your own business that, you could be thinking about triaging and adding some more linking structure with the hope of scoring site links. But let's talk about anchor link text real quick. So like I said at the very beginning of this, at the very beginning of this section, like, you don't want to link the same page over the same words every time, because that Google definitely interprets that as gaming the system. There are multiple types of links. Okay. I'm going to describe them and then you're going to go find them. You can find them on Aeroasis. We have maybe, I don't know. I don't know if I do any naked. Okay. Naked URL is exactly what it sounds like. www. Literally in the text. Okay. And then hyperlinked. Exact match. So if I'm linking out to, WIS accounting, and then I hyperlink the home page where the page title is WIS accounting over the words WIS accounting, that's an exact match, anchor link text. Okay. If I do partial match, that would be like, if I do, like, hire a writer has a writer for you, which is awful to say out loud because it's a lot of R's. But if I hyperlinked over a writer, the words a writer, that would be partial match, because technically hire a writer would be like the name of the home page, the page title. I would be hyperlinking over a portion of the page title in a partial match anchor link text. Branded. So if I had the words Aeroasis and I hyperlink over the words Aeroasis, with a homepage called Air Oasis, right? That's branded key phrase. So that would technically also be considered exact match in that instance, but there are instances where that's not the case. And then key phrase driven. So if I'm like, Google's latest SGE update, and there's an article that I want to outlink to that we already wrote on the SGE update, I would hyperlink SGE update over that phrase. Okay. So go find examples. Drop the URL.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you're saying we want to use on one page, we want to use a combination of all these kinds?
A variety. And you won't always use all of them.
Yeah.
But you don't ever want to only use one type. Should we spot check Emma? Let's look on our blog, see what we could find. Our new homepage is coming Friday. All right, so here's a good example. So oh wait, is this you, Sanders?
What do you mean?
Did you stage this or did Emma?
I don't think so.
Okay, Emma did. All right, so she did this right here would be considered a partial match. So she did over the words your funnel, she linked to an interlinking. So you interlinked to a blog, how to create a sales funnel. So that's really good. That's a partial match. Okay. This one is user journey. Ooh, user intent. So that would be partial match. Let's see, website UX, world of UX. So these are like all partial matches. This is probably exact match. Yeah, user behavior. Wait, I did the same one. Are you looking for things or are you just watching me?
Watching you.
Come on, guys. I know we've all had a long day. All right. Keyword. So this would be an exact match because keyword is right here. Okay. SEMrush. Let's see. Free trial. Why are we linking to SEMrush? Kiss my butt. I'm angry at SEMrush this week. Sorry, in case you missed that rant on Slack. Okay. This is branded versus non-branded keywords. So this would be an exact match. So she's doing a good job. She's doing a variety of things. I will mention that I don't almost ever use naked URLs because I think, again, that they look tacky. Good job. Who's participating? Good job, Sanders. Thank you. Gold star. So the idea is you just want to make it seem like you're offering related content that's going to help somebody understand something better. Okay. So this would be a good example where you always want it to be relevant to the destination intent. That's anchor link text 101. I don't feel like I should have to say that to any of you. Obviously, if you're like, best accounting firm in the world and you link over your accounting firm's URL, like that's nonsense, right? You should link to a list or maybe a article that you guys have written on what makes the best accounting firms in the world, right? You shouldn't make sure that the destination, that what you're basically presenting to the reader in the form of your anchor link text promises the destination that they will actually get to, because whether or not they click on it matters, but it also matters whether or not they care about what you linked to. Okay, so especially in internal linking. So if I'm going to link internally to something, I want to make sure it's useful to people, right? I want to make sure that it improves their experience, that it helps them understand something better, that it extends the idea. So, how we basically do it is when we're going and staging blogs, Sanders, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically, if I'm writing a blog on sales funnels, I'm going to go search our website for sales funnels. And then everything that's going to be here is going to have a relevance to sales funnels in order of semantic priority because of the way our search bar is set up on our website. So I know that every single one of these is a good candidate for linking. because they're topically related. Okay. Meaning that if somebody is interested in learning about sales funnels, these are the 6 articles they should read on our website. So all of these 6 would be good candidates, but I need to make sure that when I put them in a single blog, I'm varying, right? So sometimes we put the total, exact match. You would put up next, read how to create a sales funnel, and then hyperlink over the words, how to create a sales funnel, right? So you're still continuing the user experience. You're supporting somebody's investigation in a topical area, but you're not going to link over the word sales funnel exactly every single time you do it. Okay. So just thinking about all of that. So back to Zoom out. I love you guys, but you hardcore failed that last activity. I'm trying to make this more fun for you. You don't just listen to me talk for an hour. So that's on you if this goes to lecture next week. I'm just kidding. Okay, so big picture, zoom out, Sitelinks. You see an organized, beautifully curated list of results on the search engine results page. There are a few things that you can do as best practice. At the end of the day, it all comes down to making sure that your site is structured well, that your metadata is intact, that you have a plan for linking, and that you're executing that plan on purpose to support your highest volume pages. And if you do all of those things and have a healthy site, then Google will reward you with site links. Google may reward you with site links. Change that. Google promises us nothing. It takes everything and gives nothing back. All right. Any questions with a minute to go?
Yes.
Yeah.
The audit that I think you said it was Lindsay that did that.
Yeah.
What? Why are you laughing?
No, because I made a sound. Go ahead. I know we've had
when she is including all these new links into pages, when you guys went through that activity, can that negatively impact a page as well?
Only rarely. So you have to think like you're rarely changing any copy even.
Right.
And you're not changing any metadata. So it would be very unlikely to have a negative effect. Are you like scared to mess up something that's doing really well?
No, well, I mean, yes and no. Like Form in Place, it's one of those ones that like it just converts. You could like have the crappiest page and it just converts. But I'm interested in tinkering around with it, so I don't want to blow the whole place up,
You could, yeah. This is a very low risk endeavor.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, just a quick one. When I Googled Thrift Books, I saw both their like ad as well as just their organic result, and the site links were different.
Yeah.
For organic, do you not get to choose?
Correct.
But when you're doing the ad side, you do.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
there are 3 different kinds. So there are 3 different kinds of ad site links. So I'll send you this document and there's like articles in there if you just want to quickly like scan them of
Yeah, I
what.
already got it.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh yeah,
sure,
I flagged it to you. I already sent it to you. So yeah, you have more agency over it. Because of the way Google's dynamic ad placement things work, you won't always get to choose because it'll display what it thinks is best. Thinks is loosely, but yeah, with organic you don't choose at all.
To kind of the same thought line, I guess from a organic standpoint, what is Bard pulling from in terms of the subheader, right? So are they pulling from the meta description, or is that from the direct copy from the website that they are attempting to summarize, or is it a combination of all of the above?
Nobody knows.
Perfect.
Yeah. All we have so far is observation. And because that observation isn't very large scale yet, everyone is very hesitant to say with any certainty, and Google has not told us. So we don't know. Almost, though, we are finding like Bard is almost never pulling exact match of anything. So it's always rewriting or interpreting what it's pulling. Who's having a party?
Oh, that's probably Caroline watching
No, that's
TV.
okay. It's very like cheerful and exciting as we finish the work day.
It's a game show that we've been watching.
Nice. All right. Any other questions? Cool. All right. Well, thanks for the hang, guys. Next week is Sitelinks number 2. We'll dive a little bit deeper and go into starting a little bit more like external links. So related to like when you publish a press release, when you have a guest blog, when you have things like that, what do you request, right? And figuring out how backlinks could potentially feed into Sitelinks and be a part of your bigger picture linking structure. So we'll talk about that next week. Thanks, guys. Let me know if you need anything.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Joy.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
guys.